Hey everybody, welcome to another comic book review. In this video, I'll be talking about Persepolis by Marjane Satrapi. This book tells the story of the author, Marjane Satrapi, and her time growing up in Iran during the early 80s. Now, this is a memoir in comic book form, and it basically deals with a lot of different themes and ideas and things that were going on in Iran during the time of the 80s and leading up even till now. There were a lot of issues with women's rights going on during the time period. There was a lot of political conflict and a lot of stuff that really did not sit well with the author of this book and her family members and a lot of her friends as well. So this book kind of tells her story as well as a lot of the things that were going on in Iran during the 80s and 90s and leading up to now, and kind of how her and her family dealt with that. Her family was composed of a lot of freedom fighters and people that sort of rebelled against the government and the forced religion that was happening and the incredibly strict rules that were put in place, a lot of them targeting women. And it kind of deals with a lot of things that are unfamiliar concepts to myself, but it does it in a way that makes it accessible. It does it in a way that makes it a little easier to digest, because this book deals with some really difficult concepts and just huge things that are like kind of hard to comprehend unless you've lived through them. I certainly haven't lived through really any of the things that that Satrapi, the author, lived through in this story, in this book. But she writes in a way that makes it accessible. She writes in a way that is relatable, even when she's talking about concepts that I have never lived through, concepts that are completely foreign to me. She makes them understandable in a sense. And that's one of the things that I love about this book. And another thing that really, really enhances that is her art style. The characters are, for lack of a better word, very cartoony. She uses very simple designs and lots of ink. There are very thick, heavy, dark inks all throughout this book, and it really, really works when it comes to sort of complementing the story that is being told and the ideas that are being presented. This book is visually very helpful when it comes to kind of painting a picture of what is happening in the political climate of Iran during the 80s. And it really, really is very well drawn and well realized. It goes hand in hand with the writing, which, as I said, is spectacular. Satrapi paints this portrait of Iran through her viewpoint. So you're experiencing kind of an entire culture and a life through the perspective of just one person. And that also kind of helps to make these gargantuan concepts a lot easier to digest. And, you know, she talks a lot about not just the struggles that she and other people growing up in the country of Iran in the 80s dealt with, but she also talks about themes that many, many people can relate to, such as her relationship with God, um, and kind of trying to find out who her friends are, finding love, um, and kind of figuring out where her place in the world is. But she talks about all this stuff amidst the backdrop of political turmoil and revolution. And she deals with things that she experienced personally, but she also gets into her family. And let me just say, most of the characters, I mean, except for the ones that you're kind of supposed to dislike, she makes almost all of the characters in this book um, into some of the most likable and relatable people. And by the end of the book, it's like I felt like I knew them, even though it's, you're reading about them in a book. It's like you feel like by the end of this book, you feel like you're reading about people that you know, and it's cool to kind of get like such a sense of relatability through Satrapi's storytelling and the way she's able to relate her own personal experiences to a whole gigantic audience. This is a beautiful, brilliant book. I loved it. I think it's pretty awesome. And it deals with very hard like subject matter in a way that doesn't feel preachy. It feels natural, and I really, really like that. This book actually, it reminds me a lot of Mouse by Art Spiegelman in the way that it takes very difficult subject matter and makes it relatable, and does so with lovely illustrations, and you kind of get to see how one or two people, in the case of Mouse, but how like a small group of people are impacted by these larger than life occurrences that are affecting many, many, many people, but you're just kind of experiencing it through the lens of just a very small group. And I really, really liked that. I don't think a graphic memoir has hit me this hard since Blankets by Craig Thompson. This book really, really kind of hit home for me. It really made an impact, and I really, really like that whenever a book is able to kind of touch like things that are it feels human. It really touches on the humanity of life and what makes life worth living despite the struggles that are going on, the struggles that you may be dealing with. One thing I also really, really like about this book, and it took me a while to get used to it, but the pacing of this book, the pace is like, it moves at a breakneck speed right from the very beginning. It's like you're thrown into this book and things are just moving a mile a minute, and it doesn't let up throughout the whole book. But yet, normally I would say that would be a negative, but this book moves at such a fast pace while also really like easing you into things as well. That's one thing that I can say the art really, really helps with is, even though this book moves at a super fast pace, the art combined with Satrapi's writing style makes it seem immediately relatable, and you immediately kind of know who these people are, who these characters are, despite just being thrown into it. It's like it also moves like very gently as well. It's very fast paced, but it's like I keep saying, it's very accessible and easy to digest. So in short, Persepolis is a masterpiece. This is the complete edition. Originally, it was published as two separate volumes, Persepolis and Persepolis 2. This is the entire story. If you're going to read it, I would recommend this is the one that you read, like the complete edition, because it's very cool to just kind of like read and like have the entire story in one big volume, or at least that's kind of how I like to read it. I think that's the best way to read it. But yeah, this thing is awesome. Satrapi is a genius when it comes to articulating her own personal experiences and making them more relatable to a wider audience through the comic book medium. Brilliant, brilliant book. Thank you for watching as always. Look forward to more videos in the future and have a great day.